This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
I am a mother of three, ages 8, 6, and 2, and I understand how hard it can be for parents in this day and age. And my idea is a special AI chat that is targeted especially to parents. So when parents have a question, they don't know what to do, they can use this AI system in order to get helpful insight, whether it is relevant for this day and age, but also relevant maybe the way kids are parented 20 years ago. Parents can choose which century they want to have insight from, and from there they can also connect with other fellow parents that are interested in that parenting.
That was really good. Yeah, that was actually a very good business idea. I think I hadn't thought about that, like that's very good. I'm sold. I'm bought. I'm not a parent, but if I was, I would want that. I mean, for anything, I think I would want to just have an AI that can just answer all of my questions.
I know. Well, I think there's just so many different parenting ideas out there. And so, especially if you're wanting a certain type of parenting thought process or something. Yeah.
Hey, no, I totally get it. I totally get it. It was awesome. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Fully Managed podcast. This is where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you guys in your business journeys. And you guys know I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. And you already heard, this is our guest today, Marta from Anchor Marketing. Hi, Marta. She just pitched us a great idea for an AI for parents, so that everybody watching knows that she actually is the real deal. So, Marta, hi, how are you? Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's so great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Daniela. I'm excited to chat about marketing and all of the other topics too related to that.
Yeah, I'm also really excited. I have a lot of questions prepared for you, and why don't we just go ahead and get into it?
Okay.
So obviously, for everybody watching that is not familiar with Marta, she is the owner of an agency called Anchor Marketing. Um, Marta, to kind of get us started, get the ball rolling, break the ice a little bit, tell us a little bit about you, Anchor Marketing, how you kind of have this whole thing, everything that we need to know about you. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Hey. So I got into marketing at the end of college. I ended up getting my MBA, went into business, worked at a Fortune 100 company, had a really great marketing career going on. But then actually at my last position as a digital marketing manager, when I was taking over some of the marketing responsibilities from an outside agency, I saw how they were overcharging and how they actually weren't even doing all the work they were charging for. And they didn't really even understand the audience of the company that I was hired to work for. So it was really an eye-opening experience. And when I when my husband and I were expecting our first child, I started that I would love to stay at home and raise our child while me possibly even starting my own marketing company, just to be able to stay home and make an income. And so that dream kind of came to fruition a few months after our son was born, around 7 years ago. And then it just grew from there. It was really, really humble beginning because it's one thing to work for a marketing company. It's actually one thing to actually own and run a marketing company. And so I just starting from ground zero, did a lot of cold calling locally. I'm in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. So I thought I would just be reaching out to companies locally, and that's how it did start. But fortunately, we actually, the word of mouth grew and we started getting clients from other states around the US. And 3 years after we launched Anchor, my husband actually left his job to join me full time at Anchor Marketing Co. And then now we're growing our team here, and it's awesome. It's really cool what a little dream can do. We started off doing a few more services that we do now. Now we've really niched down to just website SEO and Google Ads, which I really enjoy. And yeah, we love what we do. We love serving our clients, and we really focus on educating our clients too, because we do have such a strong marketing background. A lot of people just don't understand marketing. It's really overwhelming for them. And so our goal is to really break it down for them. With our monthly services like Google Ads and SEO, we share the reports and data, because the data really does show you what you should be doing. It helps you determine decisions to make in your business and your marketing strategy.
That's, I think what you said. I mean, it's amazing that you kind of were able to grow this to make it sustainable enough for your husband to even want to quit his job. Um, what stood out to me was that you mentioned how it was so different from working for a marketing agency than actually owning one.
Yes.
Obviously, owning an agency means that you are not just like a marketing person, you're also a business owner. When you actually were kind of starting this whole thing, what do you think were like the biggest things that you weren't expecting you were gonna sort of be having to deal with or face, that surprised you and you kind of had to like figure out?
Yeah, I think mindset is huge. I feel like people don't talk about mindset enough when it comes to being a small business owner. Like you have to be very focused. You can't wait for people just to tap you on the shoulder and encourage you. Like, obviously family and friends are great, and I think they try to encourage you as much as they can. But I think a lot of people just can't relate to what it is to be a small business owner. And so I think having a good small knit community of people that can support you. My husband has and always been my biggest cheerleader, and now we run the business together. Um, that was huge. And then I think one thing too is it's so important to pivot. Like some people, if they stay within one thing all the time, I mean, social media is constantly changing like every week, pretty much the way the algorithm works, the way content is digested. So you have to be constantly changing with the trends and constantly adapting, and also just staying true to your roots and to your gut and that too. So yeah, it's a wild ride. It's an adventure, but I love it.
Yeah, I think like when you think of small business owners, you usually go to your baker or down the street that is like, working really hard to get those baked goods. And I think we often forget that the small business owner can also be the agency, that printing company, the graphic design service, like a lot of different things come out of that. Do you think that there's a difference with, owning a business like an agency that is more service focused and it's, I would say, more kind of a B2B type of service than if you were to have a business like that is very client facing, like a B2C type of thing where you're making a product or food or anything like that?
For sure. I think if you're a B2C, let's say if you have like an actual physical studio, a physical location, that's a lot more cost for those types of businesses. And I do think that those types of businesses can actually struggle more just because they have to pay for the rent, they have to pay for production of things. And also if you have like, let's say you're like a t-shirt making company, you have to also pay for all the all the inventory and things like that. What I love about being a digital marketing agency is we don't have a lot of that overhead. It's a lot of our work that we do is virtual. And so I do think that we're actually when it's a really great business because we don't have to deal with all of those extra things. Now I do think some people in our industry can maybe they'll go to certain conferences or things like that to like increase their knowledge. Especially, there's lots of people in my industry that may not have had even a formal marketing background, and I think that can be a benefit, but it also can be a challenge, depending on someone's mindset or someone's knowledge of the skill. And so I do think that with everything, you have to weigh the pros and cons of if you want a physical B2C business or like a B2B, which I personally prefer B2B.
Yeah, I mean, I think post COVID, also, I think just digitalizing, especially things like this one, like, like agency work, has been so much more normalized. I feel like before COVID, we were still kind of living in a workspace where a lot of people preferred in-person stuff, even if it was something that could be done online. And I feel like that was probably one of the main things that I saw change after the pandemic, which was a lot of like business owners that were wanting to be digital because it was just so much more convenient than having to meet up in person. We're now able to do that even after everything ended because I think the world realized like you don't need to go to the office every day for a lot of things, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, I mean, our business boomed during COVID. A lot of businesses were struggling, or even in the last year or two, like a lot of businesses that have been in my industry have struggled a lot just because of the economy. But I do think at the end of the day, you can't just look at your business, you have to look at your systems too. And I think what really helps our business is that we have different types of services. We have the monthly client, but we also have, like, the big projects like the websites. So that has really benefited our business a lot to be able to grow. So I do think people have to really think deeper in that so that you can recession-proof business in a sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Actually, what I was curious about is that you said that you kind of started off in a more general way, and then you sort of niched down to websites and SEO. I think you said. What made you want to kind of hyper focus on this sector of digital marketing opposed to other things like content creation, which I think has gotten really big. A lot of digital marketing agencies really focus on that, like the video editing, video aspect of it. Um, why do you want to do SEO and website work?
Yeah, with that Google Ads too. Yeah, I think we used to do more social media, and honestly, it's just people expect so much for their social media, especially depending on how big the client is. Um, and so it was just more draining with social media. I would prefer to like, um, yeah, it was just a lot. And so I think at the end of the day, we just kind of figured out, I love website designing, that's my biggest thing. And then SEO too. And my husband takes control of mostly of the Google Ads support that we do. And so that has really been like our bread and butter that we do. 'Cause we're also really, really good at it. We do have like just a couple social clients that we still have kept around because we do other services for them and they've been like loyal to us for like years. And so if they've been with us for like, 3+ years, we're not going to like just like up and go. But
Yeah.
like on social media and things like that, we don't try to promote any of those types of services. We just focus on the website, um, Google Ads and SEO. And then I have started like a side thing for interior designers too, which is a separate social page. And I will be launching a course for that separately. But that's separate from anchor marketing co.
I do understand where you come from when you say that social media is draining. It's just so unpredictable. Even with algorithms and analytics and all the stuff that we have nowadays, like to kind of, I guess, try to make sense of it. I feel like social media is still just you don't know what's gonna happen with anything that you do. There's like an aspect to it that's just hard to quantify and predict, like you said.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's so many social media managers out there, and if that's their forte and that's what they're focused on, I will gladly encourage people to go to them instead, because for me, I think, like, it's so important to do work that you love. It's so important to do work that's fulfilling for you, and I think for us, we really found that in those 3 main services that we do. And then what's cool with, like, Google Ads too, um, for companies that are nonprofits, Google does offer a $10,000 a month grant for nonprofits as long as you register for it. And so we have several nonprofits that we support with our services. We just charge the management fee, and it's so fulfilling to not only support amazing businesses, but even nonprofits that are doing really good work.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I was talking, we have a nonprofit program at Penji too,
Oh,
um,
cool.
which is kind of similar. We always have a few nonprofits a month sign up to Penji with kind of a I would say it's like a symbolic payment because it's only $1 a month. So you get discounted 99% of the actual payment of the service. So it's very similar to what you said. And I remember talking to one of my friends about it, and then she asked me like, "What do you do? Like, how does Penji do volunteer work with nonprofits? Because like you're not going out there and like like helping the drug addicts or feeding the kids or whatever the nonprofit stands for." And I'm like, well, you don't just do volunteer work. That is just this actual service that the nonprofit offers. It's also helping, like a nonprofit is also run like it would be a business, right? So
Mhm.
they still need marketing help. And a lot of times they also need graphic design work and they need someone to do that. And having like a business come in and help them is great.
Mhm.
And it's really helpful for a lot of these nonprofits, like you said.
Yeah, that's awesome that you do that.
I reminded me because, like, what you said, and I think, like, it's really interesting because you guys also are helping them a lot, and it's really similar where I think we always forget that doing stuff like this is I think we kind of, like, have this tunnel vision of nonprofit means volunteering and, like, building houses, and it really the administrative part, the structural part is also just as important.
Mhm. Definitely.
So I also wanted to ask you, um, you mentioned earlier that you work with a lot of clients that are not as educated on marketing as they probably should be, or maybe not just in general, probably are new business owners, focused on whatever it is that they're doing. How do you actually work around that, with providing people with the knowledge of what it is that you're doing, why it's important, how to kind of manage expectations for results, for things like that? I think it can be kind of complicated sometimes when you're talking to someone who is completely lost on what you are. And obviously, I think if they're going to you, they do see a value, but I feel like that communication might still be kind of complicated.
Mhm. For sure. So my background originally is in oil and gas, and I remember when I was at the oil and gas firm that I was at, it was a Honeywell company. My boss and I were the only two marketing people in that entire sub company of like 200 or 400 plus 400 people. And so like a lot of businesses that can be incredibly successful, they can be like $1 million businesses. They can just really not value marketing or they just don't understand the marketing because they're operating like it's 1990 or something. And so that's our experience with a lot of businesses. I think people can look at the biggest businesses out there nowadays and think, oh, well, they must have a big,
Marketing team.
I was like Apple, of course they have a huge marketing department, but even businesses that are run that are small businesses that are very successful, 6 years on bigger businesses, they may not have much, if any, marketing presence. And so but it's because they're running the day-to-day things in their business. And so that's kind of the case with a lot of businesses that we work with. Um, if they're a home services or landscaping or construction based, they're most likely have a very small marketing focus. And so we love to go into talk to those businesses because we know that they're hardworking. We know that they care about success. They just haven't been educated as much on the value of marketing. And so they're usually very open to learning more. They're interested. Even SaaS companies that like they have software based companies. We have one of our clients that we've had for a while now. They are a SaaS company and they always ask for all of our advice because they just don't have any internal marketing. They outsource all of their marketing to us. So, it's really important. It's really important to do that, and, we love it, and it's actually surprising that a lot of marketing agencies don't give out monthly reports, whether it's for SEO or Google Ads, and so a lot of times if I'm on a discovery call with somebody and I ask them about their previous experience of working with company or having done this, they really don't have virtually any knowledge of what was done previously. And that's really disappointing. It's really sad because people are paying all this money, but they have no knowledge of what's going on. And so that's something that we definitely want to change, that type of stigma in the marketing industry.
Yeah, and marketing is all about results. Marketers are always waiting for that statistic, for that result. I think that's also why digital marketing has gotten so popular, just because I feel like it's easier to track than the traditional kind of billboard commercial type of marketing strategies, where it was a bit harder to know whether your billboard was actually getting people to buy your service or your whatever, right? Um, so it's not like you said. I can't believe that a lot of marketing agencies wouldn't provide monthly reports. I would figure that everybody does. It's really important to kind of see your history of how your marketing campaigns and experiments have been.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think it's I've talked to so many different businesses, and it's like at least 75%, if not more, of them have very little to no knowledge of the data. So it is surprising, but it's really cool because if you do educate people, some people I think may think that the more people know about the data, then maybe the more they're not going to trust you. But real reliable companies that want to know the data, they actually will trust you more. Even on months that maybe aren't as good as the other months, they understand that it's a process. The marketing is not always going to be a straight line up. Especially Google Ads, the first 3 months are a time of testing, a time of analyzing the data. So yeah, it's a really great way to build trust with your clients too.
Speaking on analyzing data, I do you also have to kind of work with people and explain how to analyze the data, or do you do it for them and then kind of just straight up tell them like, okay, your demographic is this, so do that. Or do you kind of have to explain like, oh, okay, this number means this, and this other number can help you quantify this other thing. How does that work?
Yeah. So when we're onboarding a client, we do ask them to fill out a survey. We do like to understand what their main competitors are because that really helps us to understand them as well. I mean, we've worked with so many different industries, so it's usually not an industry that we haven't worked with if we are taking on a new client. And as far as like the reports go, I mean, really simple things like conversion or like from Google, we make sure we always have conversion tracking on the website for that conversions, impressions, things like that. And then we'll have showing data based off of the demographics. The great thing with Google Ads, for example, is you can target by age, you can target by location, things like that. So we can also see how different ads are performing based off of the messaging, based off of the location, and those types of things. But we always make sure to have like a great takeaway page at the very end, which that's a very like straightforward, very easy to understand takeaway. Like the takeaway here is that we're seeing more traffic with this type of audience, or like we've had nonprofits that we work for that they have better conversions than the sister organization does. So it's a lot. It's really cool to see that, and we even like to compare data. Long term if we've had a client for a long time like based off of the year or things like that. So we try to make it as understandable as possible for people. And then, I mean, not everyone is able to even get on a call. Most people don't get on calls with us. We obviously offer it. But if someone has a question, we're always welcome and willing to answer that.
That's so cool. And how do you go about actually I think a huge question that a lot of our viewers have, which is um how to kind of start the journey of having a successful marketing department, or outsourcing properly when it comes to their businesses, is how do you actually go about setting things like KPIs? I think that kind of terminology can be very scary because if you don't meet them, it feels like a failure, and it can be a difficult sort of situation to figure out, was it that I set the wrong KPI, or did I not do the right things in order to meet this? Is this successful even though I didn't meet it? How do you kind of help people with that, especially when you're talking to someone who's very new to the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it really could. I mean, I think you really have to analyze first, like your marketing vision and mission. I mean, I think it's really starting to start creating a marketing plan. It's really important have to not put too many goals at once. If you have too many goals at once, then you're doomed to like fail. But let's say you have maybe two or three things that you want to see happen in Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4. Um, from there, you have a goal of like, let's say a company has the goal of increasing the traffic to their website and increasing lead. Let's say they're going to be utilizing Google Ads and SEO to do that. So let's say they start their Google ad in January. And it's really important for them to track the Google Analytics with that. Let's say their budget is really low, like a $500 a month budget for that. So they're going to see what the traffic is happening. They can test. They have people come to their homepage. They're going to have people come to their services page, and they're going to be testing how many leads they're going to be getting on their contact page. And let's say they don't have as much traction the first quarter, then they would be able to, maybe they want to set up a new landing page or they want to set up a new freebie. Maybe they have like a new checklist they want to create. How is that going to be changing that? Maybe let's say that the checklist brings in more leads for them. Then they can just build off of that. So there's a lot of different things you have to do. I would say people kind of have goals, but they don't really monitor the goals. And that's where you run into problems when you don't monitor it and focus on the tactical every day to actually build on that.
Yeah, that's a great advice. And I think you've been giving us a lot of great advice this whole podcast. But this is a moment for one segment that I like to call worst moment. But it's for you to tell us at the top of your head, obviously, what is the worst piece of advice you think you have ever gotten when you were starting your business, when you were deciding to transition into being a business owner? Just the worst thing that you think you heard as advice.
Oh, great. Let's see. Well, I think I did get advice to like be part of like a local like networking group. And the networking group was helpful because it did help me to get some new clients. But at the end of the day, like I just had to put myself out there with like cold calling. I had to put myself out there with social media. Networking is really great, but you really do need to just sell a lot more online. I do think one thing that a lot of people do wrong nowadays is they sell too hard on social media. They focus too much on selling versus connection and community. And I do think that's a huge issue for a lot of like B2B businesses, like in my industry, where they think if they just sell, 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 it's great. But then people don't really get to know you as a person.
Yeah.
You get to know they have that know, like, and trust factor is so important. So you can't just be like the sale, like, I'm just here to sell websites and you should get a website from me. Like, why should they buy from you? Like, why? Is it because you can relate to their business struggling, having certain pain points, things like that? So you have to make sure your business is relatable and really authentic, and that's what brings commission.
Yeah, that's I think very, very good advice. You can't just kind of put your all of your eggs into like one stream or one basket, I guess. Well, Marta, it's been great having you on the podcast today. It was so useful. You said so many amazing things. But before we end it, I do want to give you the space to plug anything that you want to plug. If anything that we spoke about today resonated with our audience and they would like to get to know you and talk to you a little bit or work with you, the floor is yours.
Yeah. They can schedule a free call with us by going to anchormarketingco.com. I guess you may have the links for them. I'm most active on Instagram. Our Instagram page for Anchor Marketing Co. That's at Anchor Marketing Co. But yeah, just definitely feel free to reach out, follow, or just ask a question. We offer a free digital marketing call to talk through strategy, things like that. There's no obligation. But yeah,
Yeah, I will be adding, don't worry, the links to the description of this video so that people can go ahead and click on them easily and find you. And guys, thank you so much for being here today. Marta, thank you so much for being here today. Remember to follow, like, subscribe, comment, the whole shebang. And thank you so much for doing this. It was great having you.
for having me, Taylor.
I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.